Okay, so this video is just going to be a general tour of the expression engine, what we call the backend or the control panel. So when you first log in, this is the screen that you'll see. We should have sent you login details and information in an email. So it kind of works on a tab system. So when you first get in there, it'll show you what the most recent entries have been. So if you have multiple editors working on your site, you can see if anybody's entered any new entries here on this list. So our tabs are across the top. And what we have is publish, so this is where we would go if we want to make a new entry. We have the edit tab, which will allow us to see all the pages that are in our site and select them and then edit. We have communicate, which is a module that allows you to kind of email other members, other editors that might be set up in your site, or if you've added an e-newsletter component to things, there could be member lists that you can mail there, things like that. My account is just the settings, your own personal settings for your member account, so it allows you to change your name, passwords, and email address, things like that. And then there's administration, which you may or may not have access to, depending what level of user you are, and there's a few other functionalities in there, such as adding other members to the site. So let's start off with the Edit tab. I'll just give you a quick overview. So this lists all of the articles that are currently on your site, all of the pages. So event number 2, for instance, is the name of the page, and it is residing in the section of events. You can see here's the column for event for the section. It's an open article, which means it's currently live. If it's of a closed status, such as this one here is, that means it's not actually showing on the site. And so the main thing that to note with this is if it's a very powerful tool. There's a lot of pages to look at here, so it's a little daunting if you're trying to find just one particular page. So the most important thing to note on the Edit tab is on the top we've got this little search filter thing. So if you know the name of the page, you can simply enter the name into the keywords. So if we were looking for the page called event number 2, we could simply go event number 2, and that'll display just that page then. The other option we can do is we can filter by section. So if we are looking for something, we know it's an event, but we don't know the name of the event, we can go on here and we can filter by events. It'll show me all the events that are listed on the site. I can do the same thing for FAQs. Right now there's only one FAQ page. You could also filter by status, so whether they're open or closed. This is great if you happen to have public posting on your site. So if people can post events, for instance, they'll start as a status of closed until you review them and make sure they're okay. So if you want to just filter by status closed, then you can see everything that's there that people have submitted, and you can then review it, make any changes, and post it to an open status. Date range, so if you know it's a recent article, we can search by date. So there's lots of different little search filters here that allow us to find the page that we want. And then to edit it, it's as simple as just clicking on the title, and you'll get to that page's submission form where you can edit the actual content, and we'll deal with how to edit content in a different video. This is just kind of giving you a brief tour of the back end. So the publish tab is the same idea. It's going to give you, except it's going to give you a listing of your sections that you can publish new content in. And if we click on one of those, we'll get a blank entry form where we can add the title of our new entry and then fill out any of the specific custom fields or the general fields for that particular item. Also under the publish and edit tab, it's important to note too that all pages we can change, there's tabs to the pages as well, and we can do things like there's the date tab where we can add an expiration date, meaning the page will cease to show after the particular date passes, or dates might be used for events, calendars, things like that. Those will usually be dealt with in your videos that are custom specific for your site. There's categories, so we can assign if there's categories set up for this particular page, we can assign things to categories. So in this particular site, this business directory has several different categories and subcategories. We select that through the categories tab. And And then there's also options. This particular one is we can change the author, and here's where we can assign the status of open or closed. And pages, I believe we don't really want to do anything with. So the other tabs that we have, communicate, like I was saying before, it's essentially like a webmail program. You can have a subject and a message and send that off to either member groups. So member groups are things like so editors. This is what most people will fall into. There's also super admins, which would be BC DesignWorks is a super admin. We have access to a lot of the sections where if you get access to them you might potentially mess up your site, so or there could also be member groups of people who don't actually have any access to edit the site. They are just a member of a mailing list or something like that. So that's where we can do through the communicate tab. My account, this is where you can do all of your, and I'm not really sure why you would want to set up a lot of these things, but you can have a profile, you can add a photo of yourself, all those kind of things. But the most important one to look at under here is under personal settings, username and password. So here's where you would go if you want to change your username and password. So this is a pretty useful screen. And the last one is the admin tab. And generally you won't be doing much in the admin tab. You may not even have access to it depending on your level of member sort of priority. And here's where you can add new members. So you can register a new member through this portion here. You're going to enter a username, password, and an email address for them. And usually it will be set up so that it only allows you to assign them to the same group that you are. So for instance, if you're an editor of the site, you can create another editor which would have the same level of access that you have. So yeah, it's kind of a brief tour of the back end, and then the rest of the videos will deal with how to edit your content and add photos and all that great stuff.